everyone, and welcome to TWF Nxt 2.0. I am Gene Okerlund, here with Trini Kwan and Wade Barrett, and today on Nxt 2.0, we're going to see Ruby Riott and Rhea Ripley. And let's just say Gene Okerlund said Ruby Riott's not happy. Wow, Trini Kwan said she was in WWE before she was fired, let go, freed, whatever you want to call it, before she went to AEW underneath her true name, Ruby Solo. But here she comes now. Yeah, that's right, Wade Barrett said. She's now in AEW now and goes by the name Ruby Solo. If that's her true name or not, I truly do not know. All I know is that she was on NXT, then she was put on SmackDown, then she was put on Raw, before she was being let go. And she was teaming up with Liz Morgan again before she was freed too. For some of you folks, Wade Barrett said, and I don't know what she's doing in AEW these days. I tell you what now, Ruby Riott said, it's been some time since I've been around. And I know this one thing about the TWF women offshoot is that the same women are always going for either the TWF Women's Heavyweight winnings or the Women's World Heavyweight winnings. And the way I look at it is, I haven't won any of them. Let's go back. I was in WWE for many years. I was on NXT for many years. Then sent to SmackDown. And then sent to Raw. And then I was out wounded, then I came back, and not too long, sometime after that, I was then let go in 2020 YL. Then I went to AEW, and I don't know what I'm doing there. But I know that women like me should be getting it, but no, I don't get a shot. First off, women like you. First off, Ruby Riott, I know all about you. Alright? You see, I know all about you, or at least I heard all about you. Because I was first on NXT UK. Then I went to NXT. Then I went to Raw. But by the time I got there, you were wounded, came back, and then you were wrestling for some time, and then you were fired. But I'll tell you what. Yeah. You didn't really get handled very well during your time in WWE or on NXT or SmackDown or Raw. But yeah, you to talk, Ruby Riott. You to talk, Rhea Ripley. Because you're a former WWE NXT UK Women's Heavyweight Fighter. You're a former WWE NXT Women's Heavyweight Fighter. You're a former WWE Raw Women's Heavyweight Fighter. At one time, WWE Women's Team Fighter. So I think you got worked more well than I did. So you want to start something. And we don't have, and you know what? We don't have to yield for Gil Kim to come out here if you want to start something with me. So the way I look at it, we can always wrestle now. And I can show you why I was the former WWE NXT UK Women's Heavyweight Fighter. Well, I was the former WWE NXT Women's Heavyweight Fighter. And I was the former WWE Raw Women's Heavyweight Fighter. So you want to have a fight? Yeah, I want to have a fight. Well, now we got the fight lord in the ring now. Gene Okerlund said, and Ruby Riott coming right after Rhea Ripley. And Rhea Ripley picking up Ruby Riott and a body slam, Gene Okerlund said. And I know some folks out there are going to say, oh, she's Ruby Solo now. Now, Trini Kwan says, because you're always into keeping up with the up-to-date ring names of fellow wrestlers. Yeah, Trini Kwan said. And so far, Ruby Riott's doing very well for herself. You know, so far, Rhea Ripley's doing very well for herself. Oh, and Ruby Riott just took down Rhea Ripley. Trini Kwan said, and she feels that she felt that she didn't get all the things during her time in WWE didn't really work out for her. Oh, and Ruby Riott, scathed, guilted, and shamed her time in WWE for not being well. Trini Kwan said, well, Wade Barrett said, sometimes it didn't quite work out for her. Didn't quite work out for her, yes. Yes, she was on NXT. Yes, they put her on SmackDown. Yes, they put her on Raw. But didn't quite go the way she wanted. But that's just the way it is. I was in WWE the first time around many years ago. I was on NXT, then Raw, then SmackDown. Things didn't quite go the way I wanted them to go, but you don't see me bitching about it. My 2-4 run in WWE, though, on NXT again. Wait a minute. Here it goes. The Riptide. Oh! You don't see me bitch about that, Wade Barrett says. No, I guess you don't. Gene Okerlund said. We just see the Riptide, Wade Barrett. The Riptide. 1, 2, 3. Ding ding ding. Here is your winner, Rhea Ripley. And Rhea Ripley has beat Ruby Riott here on NXT UK. I mean NXT 2.0, my mistake. So, what do you think about all those things? What do you think about that fight? What I thought Trini Kwan says is at the end of the day, I truly felt that it was a good match. I don't know. I truly don't know I don't know if those two had wrestled in true life, or if they did. If they did wrestle, they may have wrestled in some other smaller wrestling businesses out there. But I don't think Ruby Riott or Rhea Ripley ever fought during their times in WWE at all. Trini Kwan said, yeah, you'd be right about that one, Wade Barrett said, because by the time Rhea Ripley came to WWE, Ruby Riott was already on NXT and already on SmackDown, already on Raw by the time all of that happened. And by the time Ruby Riott went from NXT UK to NXT to Raw, Ruby Riott was already on Raw not too long before she got let go. So, yeah, it is what it is. Well, Gene Okerlund said Jim Ross now is going to be talking with Ruby Riott, or also known as Ruby Solo. But we're just going to call her by her former WWE ring name, Ruby Riott, instead of calling her by her AEW ring name or true name, Ruby Solo. Hi, I'm Jim Ross here. Gene Okerlund be talking with Ruby Riott, or we call her Ruby Solo. Alright, Ruby Riott or Ruby Solo, whatever you want to call yourself, same self. You had your first match, your first fight here in the TWF. Yeah, it has been a long time, and I know I didn't quite fit in with any of the women wrestlers in my time in WWE or on NXT or Raw or SmackDown. And I didn't really fit in very well. I never really did win the WWE NXT Women's Heavyweight winnings, WWE Raw Women's Heavyweight winnings, WWE SmackDown Women's Heavyweight winnings, and I didn't win the WWE NXT UK Women's Heavyweight winnings. But the way I look at it is, I'm an AEW now. And what you just saw would have been a WWE wrestler fighting an AEW wrestler. But if Ruby Riott, I'll give her all of that. She's a great wrestler. She's a good kid, good wrestler, good fighter, whatever. But I'm going to work hard. And one of these days, you're going to see me as the TWF Women's Heavyweight Fighter. Or the World Women's Heavyweight Fighter, Jim Ross. Yes, we know all about all the cool things you do. We see what you do on Dynamite and what you do on Rampage and Dark and Elevation, or we're calling it right. But we're talking about what you do here in the TWF, and you seem to have, I don't want to say a hang up or a bind with Rhea Ripley. Do you have on-look for her? Yes, Jim Ross, I do got on-look for Rhea Ripley. Because Rhea Ripley reminds me of myself. Even though she went on to win winnings that I never won. I'm not heartburned over it at all. And if we want to have another match or another fight, Jim Ross, I'm open-minded to it. Well, that's my talk with Ruby Riott or Ruby Solo. Back to you, Gene Okerlund. Well, thank you, Jim Ross, for talking with Ruby Riott or Ruby Solo here on NXT 2.0. And that's all the time we got here. I'm Gene Okerlund for Trini Kwan and Wade Barrett. We hope you like NXT 2.0, and we'll see you tomorrow for Dynamite or Strength for Might.